everybody. Welcome to Currency Roundtable number 4, the eBay edition. Last week we were talking about where do we buy our banknotes, and eBay was part of that conversation. Well, we all know that eBay is a big part of where we purchase notes. We wanted to dive deeper, and that's what we're doing today. We kind of have a planned agenda, but it's going to be a little bit loose here and there, and that's okay. We just want to have some good conversation. So what we're going to start with is kind of, first and foremost, review what we've did a little bit last week and go pros and cons. Why eBay is a good place, why it isn't. So right away, gentlemen, how are we today, by the way? Not that I really care about any of you.
Starting to warm up.
Yes, I know. We hit above 20. Yay.
Right. Doing very well, thank you.
Good.
Thawing out a little bit.
I like that new haircut, Dustin. I like it. I like it a lot.
Got it, Dan.
All right. Let's throw this pros and cons. Let's go to Mr. Stu first here.
Pros and cons. Well, for eBay, one of the pros that I like is the fact that the items are listed for enough time. Even if the auction even if the item is an auction, I should say, auctions can go for as little as a day or for as long as 10 days. Then there's also the buy it nows and the make offer stuff, which can be up for 30 days at a time. Which means when I look at something on eBay, I have all the time in the world to actually go and do my own research. Whereas other sites, that's not necessarily the case. Now, I know Heritage and other auction sites will sometimes go, 2 to 3 months. And to me, I don't have that much patience, but I do like having a little bit of time to actually do some research and to know what's out there, to know the price, and to compare the price with the other things that are on there. To me, that's the biggest pro of eBay. That and that it's a two-way street. You can buy, and of course you can sell. And they make it fairly easy to do. Now, there's all kinds of problems that go with how easy it is to do, and we'll discuss some of that stuff later. But I like its accessibility. As far as the cons, they're very easy to create an account. So if somebody does something kind of sketchy, it's easy for that one account to be filled with all kinds of negatives, and they can just cancel that account and start over again. So I mean, that to me, that's the big negative that I don't like. Ontario, what do you think on eBay pros and cons?
Yeah, to me, I like eBay because I'm usually looking for one specific note, and they have the volume out there. There's good, availability. They have a lot to choose from. Usually you can find what you're looking for, and often in multiple grades, and from different sellers. Like you said, that's kind of one of the cons I had, was that you have to be careful who you're buying from. But I like the fact too, when you're on eBay, that as a buyer, there is some warranty there given to you by eBay. They will help you recover your money if you get into a situation.
Have you ever gotten into a situation?
Oh, yeah. Not a lot, but I have had refunds. I had an example not too long ago. I bought a $50 bill. It was so well. Let me start that over again. I bought a $50 bill recently that was supposed to be a radar $50 bill, and the price was $60. So I thought it was a little low, but anyway, I bought it. The seller did not have a lot of feedback, but I thought I'd give it a shot. Well, needless to say, I never got the note, and eBay did return the money, and the seller disappeared from the platform. So I suppose they were just trying to con people, and fairly successful at it, I imagine, for a little while.
Tough way to make money, $60 at a time, though, man.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
Dustin?
With me, these guys hit it well. Something that eBay, a con, is you can't have the note in hand. You can't examine it. There's pictures on there, and some sellers put a variety of pictures on there. But an example, one time I got a a $10 star note. It's one of the 1918 $10 star notes, and or 1914, one of the two, one of those series. And there were 2 pinholes in it. And there's a lot of those star notes out there available. I could have settled on something else around the same grade that didn't have pinholes, but simply looking at the note with the pictures that they had on there, you could not tell there were any pinholes at all. Best I remember, there were probably 8 to 10 pictures. And when I got it, it's like, dadgummit, it was kind of frustrating, but that's one of the big cons for me is just being able to view the note before buying it, and view it in hand, hold it up to the light, do all that stuff.
Yeah,
Good pros.
that's true of a lot of the
Very true.
higher grade notes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the difference between a 50 and a 60. If you don't have that in hand, I mean, you can't really show a picture of handling. That's what makes it so tough on the higher grade notes when you're just going by a picture like that.
And that's really difficult with banknotes. I mean,
Right.
as opposed to coins.
Yes.
It's very difficult to tell that.
With
Go ahead.
with pros, real quick. I like what these guys said about just the vastness of it. Just if you're hunting for one note, you can save a search. You can go in there and type it in every day if you want to, and you're going to get results of some type. And that's kind of where education and all that comes in that we'll talk about later.
I agree with that. With the reminders, if you want to do that, you can say, hey, I'm looking for this note and get the eBay reminder. For me, it is about quantity. You go to the local coin shop that happens to carry currency, which again, I don't have that big advantage in my area. But the biggest thing I get frustration with is buying local, and having it in hand is, yes, for anything that you're buying, right? Really anything. But for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to go to the coin shop and see some more $2 and $5 legal tenders from 1963. Might get lucky they have a 28. And that's it. There's just nothing new coming in. And that's where eBay just gives me this whole ocean to wade in, especially now that I've gotten into other, currency categories, world banknotes, obsolete banknotes. But we'll get into that. You can start on eBay and go other places from there. Yeah, and I gotta reemphasize what Ontario said is that security blanket that you do have. Not that you can't go back to your local coin shop, and I think you could if it's a reputable. Most of them are going to be reputable for that.
But in comparison to Facebook shopping,
Yeah,
or
Facebook,
right.
the other places that you get to. So. All right, so I'm going to preface the next round. So that's the pros and cons. We feel good about eBay. eBay's got quantity and selection by far, and that's probably the biggest advantage that eBay provides, especially if you don't have that local coin shop that carries currency near you. Kind of the things that we're not going to get into, and I kind of forgot to mention this. All the tactics and things like this, and how to snipe, and you know what? Those are all things that you get to learn. And if some of us want to share some of that information, great. If you don't, that's we don't want competition. Sorry. But those are all things that you kind of got to learn on your own. And you can also Google things on that too. And things like, how do I do this on eBay? How, there's certain search filters, again, we're going to talk about a little bit. You can Google it, find that out. We're talking probably a little bit different on that aspect. So moving into, we're going to talk about buying, and then we're going to talk about selling. We are talking about buying and selling as collectors. We're not trying to be an eBay shop or a store or anything like that. We're collectors that do most of the time we're purchasing by far, and occasionally we're going to sell some notes. That's where we're coming from the eBay side. I have now got on eBay. What do I do?
All right. Well, to start with, you have to decide what it is you're looking for. Okay, if you are looking for an individual item, there's a tactic that way. Or if you're doing like me and just seeing what's out there, there's a tactic that way. So first of all, get in the right frame of mind. Understand what it is you're looking for. If you're looking to fill a particular set and you're looking for a very specific item, search for that item. You're going to come up with all the different prices, all the different grades. It's all going to be there for you to choose from. But if you're more like me, I tend to do really broad searches, and I try to sniff out things that are misplaced. So many times people will try to take advantage of eBay by listing multiple categories, and sometimes they forget to put it in the main category. We were just scrolling through earlier. We typed in large size banknotes, and there was so many small size banknotes in there. If you reverse that, if you type in small size banknotes, you're going to find a bunch of large size. Well, that means those large size notes aren't being put in front of the audience that they should have been, which means you can probably get them a little cheaper than they should have sold for. So, I mean, those are just some of the aspects that I look for early on. I want to know, am I looking for a particular item? I'm going to hunt that down pretty good. Or if I'm just looking for a deal. So that's my starting spot. And then from there, I want to know how much I'm willing to spend, and I want to know about what it's worth. So these are the things that go through my mind when I open up eBay.
So, anybody want to talk about using filters as far as eBay and going into the categories?
Well, I mean, because I'm usually looking for a specific note, I usually start by putting in the series year. And because a lot of times, depending on the series, that year is unique. Like if you're looking, for example, for a large gold certificate and you want a series 1922, I put in 1922 and sort all that down, and then I'll click on, either a $10 bill or $20 bill, whatever denomination you're looking for. Is that what you mean? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, for me, I mean, it's like, yeah, we want to get into the right categories, and I'm more of a generalist, and again, it's how much time do we have, and
yeah,
do
true,
I enjoy it, right? And how much do
right.
I want to swim and stay in my lane, or do I want to swim all over the pool? Well, I'm a big guy, so I, push more of the water out of the pool when I jump in anyways. Um, no, and I say that, but based on what Steve said earlier is like, you might find something that's not there, that they miscategorize and things.
Well, that's very true. That's very true. That what I just described assumes that everyone listed the items properly, and you're absolutely correct. They often don't. So,
But that's where your first search. I mean, I think all of us start with
mm,
that and then branch off from there when we can't find it. But it's by the way, that is a pro of eBay
true.
versus the websites that are out there. And there's nothing, we went over the websites. There's very good websites out there. They really don't have search tools. So you have to go through their entire inventory to look, and that is tedious.
Yeah.
So that's another advantage for me on that. So, okay, I mean, how you get there on to find the note that you want to buy, to discover whether you're fishing, whether you're swimming, whether you're looking very, you're locked in with that specific what you're trying to find. The question is, I'm seeing auction and buy it now. Anybody want to take that on first?
Well, just to tie in a little bit more about what we were saying,
Yeah.
uh, you have to understand that if you are looking for a very specific thing, it's going to cost you more.
Yeah.
Because you're looking to buy this particular item right now. You're going to
Right.
have to take whatever price is there. Even if there are 6, 7, 10, 100 of them, you can buy the cheapest one you want, but it's going to cost you a little more. Whereas when you are doing the shotgun approach, like I do, and just to see what's out there cheap, that's when you're going to find the deals. Me, I'm not, like I said, I'm not looking for anything in particular. I'm looking for a great deal. And that's, like I said, how I fill my auctions is being able to find these little things. And to me, that's almost the fun of eBay, trying to find those little nuggets like that. And then, of course, I share them with everybody because I sell things. You guys see how cheap I sell stuff. But yeah, I usually put in the time on eBay looking for these little things. So yeah, just be aware. If you're targeting one item, you're probably going to pay up. You may even have to pay, a little bit over book. But, shotgun approach, that's deal hunting.
Well, and it goes back to everything. You see the note and
Yeah,
you might not see it again,
exactly.
right?
Buy the note when you see the note. Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I'm probably the laziest eBay person just because I'm not buying huge dollar amounts on, like Dustin is for $8,000.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I mean, it's especially with when I'm looking for stuff, it's not that much money. So am I going to worry about buy it now or auction? And I'm kind of impatient sometimes. But the key is I'm still want to make sure that I'm within a value, right? I mean, and there's different values applied to different things, and we're going to talk about that too. I know Ontario brought us a good examples of what there could be more value to that note than that cares to meet the eye. But for me, it's like doing my research. Steve, you talked about you giving the time, the advantage of being able to know that that note is what it is as far as pricing is. But do you feel uncomfortable about buy it nows? Is there any reason to not do buy it nows?
Buy it nows are Buy it nows are for when you want the item now. If I'm making a top 10 list and I have 9 items, I'm buying it now because I need to make the list. If it's like I said, if it's the one item I'm looking for, there's a lot of items in my collection that I've used buy it now for. That's particularly why I need it to fill in this particular spot. So am I comfortable with buy it now? Absolutely. What I'm more comfortable with though is when you can make an offer. And when they allow offers, I will take advantage of that. Now, remember, with the make an offer, you can go back and forth up to 5 times. So I'm not saying lowball them right away, but if you shoot them a price, they can come back with another price, and then you can come back, and before you know it, you're meeting in the middle.
Well, and that's where the education of the price of that, because you really don't want to lowball them and just push away right now. It's like anything else. But if they're priced that high,
Well, yeah, and if even if they're not accepting offers, I mean, I've sent offers to buy it now sellers, even if it wasn't indicated on the item, and had good results with that.
Same here. Yeah.
So I know I've made offers, for those coveted binary trinaries, for face value is what I've done. But somehow they rejected. I don't know why.
It's probably the only offer they got.
Again, do you want to collect that? Great. Just know that just know what you're buying, please. Thank you. And be aware if you do an offer and the seller has put it in there, make an offer that they'll accept anything below X, you now have a purchase.
Right. Yeah. You have to do your homework, which we've said already, and I say it again. You have to know what something costs and what you're willing to pay for.
Just in case any of eBay's lawyers are watching this, we are talking about making offers through eBay.
Yes.
We are not talking about subverting eBay.
No.
And the reason I stress that is because you guys know with my eBay scammers, I contact sellers all the time, and I report sellers all the time. You can report items that you see for one reason or another. And one of the reporting issues is the seller is trying to sell the item outside of eBay. So we're not talking about trying to go outside of eBay through eBay. No. We're talking about going through eBay and making an offer to the seller that way, just so we're clear on all that.
So let's say you find something, whether it's on auction or whether it's on buy it now, and the pictures are a little fuzzy. Anything that anybody can do, or do I just move on? Can I do anything at that point?
This one's fun because I think we have differing opinions on this part, just from talking. If I'm scrolling through eBay and I see a crappy photo that's like sideways and I just go past it. I'll be honest. It's just frustrating. It's like marketing 101. You have your product there. It's easily seen and people know what it is, pretty standard stuff. So I don't know why I'm geared like that, but that's just what I do. But I'm also probably guilty of missing some deals, Sue, you're about to tell me something.
No, I mean, I am the first one to blow by it because I agree with you. It's like you almost don't deserve my business because you didn't do what you should have done in the first place, right?
Right.
But if it's something that I want, I'm hunting and I'm targeting.
Ask for new pictures. Yeah.
Ask for new pictures.
Yeah.
I've done that before.
Yeah, and it's like because it's something specific. And Dustin, I am right with you. I'm scrolling right by, going, "Yep, no, not going to help you out."
Right.
All right.
If you're now this is the thing though. Now, if you're targeting a specific thing, we just proved that 75% of the people are going to scroll right past that thing. So this is your opportunity to take advantage of a seller who I don't want to say doesn't know much, but isn't trying to make the sale. So you've got less competition as a buyer. So it that is an opportunity. And maybe it's all the time that I spend in casinos that makes me more of an opportunist. But whenever I see an opportunity like that, I will take a peek, and I may click that little watch button there just to see if that sells for what it's supposed to sell for. or
The
not.
watch button's I mean, by the way, what does being a showgirl in Vegas have to do with currency collecting? But I won't go there, Steve. The watch.
That's how I get all my singles.
Yeah.
Where that baby oil singles come from. Yeah.
Right.
With the watch, who doesn't love the watch? I love the watch. You might get a discount offered. You to find out, did it sell for that?
Right. If
Okay,
you
am I the-
watch, you'll often get a discount offer from the sellers. That happens a lot. Sometimes almost annoyingly too much.
It's
Yeah,
$8.99,
discount
it's
offers,
$900 bill, and they're like, here's here's $1 off. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
But it is still there. Okay, so
The watch button. Do you guys? Am I the only one that knows that there is a limit to the number of items you can watch at once?
No,
No,
no.
that.
I've reached the limit.
you have maxed.
There is a limit. Yes.
Wow.
What is the limit?
500, maybe.
I think it's 100. I think
Is
it's
it-
100 items.
Yeah, I think I have more than 100 right now. I can actually check while we're doing this, so I'll let you know.
Well, right now I'm
Wow.
going to share my screen. I'm going to talk about, Ontario. You brought a couple examples up, and we talk about photos. We're talking about description now. And again, scroll down, read the description. What is it that you're actually getting? Is there a return policy? What kind of shipping? We'll get to that in a minute. But so Ontario found one that was confusing to me for sure. All right, so this was a little bit confusing as far as new high serial number, $10 1950 narrowback Federal Reserve note, blah blah blah. And it, in the description, it basically says what the title is, but it brought in backplate number and things like that. So Ontario, why were you highlighting this?
When I first brought that up, I noticed I focused in on the words new high serial, and I was thinking, well, that it should go to, what is it, 9? The older notes go to 9.6, 9.9.
Well, the older notes are 9.9.
Yeah.
9.9. And so I was wondering why he was calling that a high serial number when it starts with a 7.
Yeah, at first glance, that's a head scratcher, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
you see that. So when I first saw this, what I did was I was looking at the serial number compared to the rest of the print, and what I was thinking is that the seller was using the optical illusion of the arch where it says the United States of America, how that dips down, and the
Yeah.
suffix A looks like it's almost touching. So my first thought was they're trying to claim that this is an error and that the serial number is too high. But my argument to that then was if you look at the seal covering 10, that's dead center and that's where it's supposed to
Right.
be. So that can't be what they were calling high.
But you can sit there and go all day, and we did solve the riddle on this, by the way.
Yes.
But it took 3 of us and a couple books.
With 3 of us and a couple books, we figured out that the highest serial number available for this particular note was only supposed to be 65 and change. And this one starts off with 70. So that's where you get the serial number is a new high by more than 4 million. Yeah. And it says that there, but we had to dig and try to understand what they were saying by all this stuff because it
Correct.
wasn't exactly crystal clear.
And the narrow that's being talked about is the width on, I believe, the border. I don't pay attention to this stuff, but narrow versus wide. And the backplate number helps identify that if it's backplate number between X and Y. And it just took
Correct.
some time. And so, this seller, I'm going to give them credit. They were
Right.
they were on it. And we were still a little bit confused. So, it's just know your research. And again, going back, that's one of the advantages of eBay on that. So,
You can
all
learn
right.
a lot by
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
your research.
So we've identified a note, right? We're locking in. What's my next step before I throw it in the cart? Should I look at the seller?
Yeah, definitely.
What am I
Definitely.
looking for? What am I looking for in the seller, Dustin?
I think the obvious thing's feedback, and low feedback means, or it can mean a variety of things. I hate to throw all the low feedback people in the same barrel, but a lot of times low feedback means they're either a new seller, there's someone that has created a different account, maybe they got kicked off another, or maybe eBay shut them down or whatever. But I personally look at feedback, and another thing and I look at is the title, and this sounds kind of dumb, but the title of their store or whatever. If it's a bunch of numbers, there's not a lot of thought put into it. But if it's, Mr. Moneybags 101 or something, that's a little bit, it goes back to the marketing thing and having good pictures and all that stuff. They're trying to put it out there as a presentable product, themselves out there as a presentable seller. Those are little minute things, but man, to me, that's what matters. If I'm not going to shake your hand on a deal, if I'm going to rely on you and trust you to ship this note that I'm going to give you money for, take the time to create a name and build that feedback up and do all that stuff. It's not hard.
Ontario, you brought up a good point. We had a pre-discussion on this, folks, and Ontario had a really good point on feedback. That feedback may not be the feedback that you see.
Were you talking about the comment about revised feedback?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I always look at that as well to see if they've had a lot of comments revised. That's sort of a red flag for me. Now, I suppose anyone could have a few changes, but if you see hundreds of comments that have been revised, that's a red flag.
For
One
me,
of the things that we have to
go ahead.
we have to differentiate, though. There's the feedback rating, there's the feedback, I should say, which tells you how many ratings they've had, which can be high, can be low. But then there's also the rating itself, which is a percentage. Okay, so
True.
a person can have 700 feedbacks. That means they've dealt with 700 different people. But their feedback rating, could be 99.2 or whatever. And based on that, you can tell how many negatives versus how many things they've
Right.
actually sold. So you want to keep that in mind. I just want to make sure that, everybody understands that I know we all understand, but for the purpose of this conversation, that there are two numbers listed there. I'm not afraid of a seller who has a low number of sales as much as I am afraid of the low feedback percentage. I will give someone the benefit of the doubt being a first time seller, but if they've only sold 10 items and they've got a feedback of 89%, no, I'm not going to be buying from that
Well,
person.
Steve, you again had a good example too on earlier discussion. Let's say they got like 300 right out there, and
That's about what I have.
That's kind of, yeah. It's not big, it's not small. But do I want to know what they're selling? What they have sold? Is that important?
Yeah, you kind of want to check to see what else they're selling, because if they're selling, if they've got two notes out there and they've got 50 comic books, well, maybe they're a comic book guy that just happened to run across a couple old notes, and they might not necessarily know a lot about them. So yeah, you definitely want to look into what they're selling, and you get an idea of what they actually know. And that may or may not help with the sale. They may just be trying to unload something they think is valuable and not really know.
Right. And this is where I'm going to make the dotted line back to Dustin, because I know when I sell something, and if there's something wrong with that note, I am going to put it in the description. I don't want it coming back, someone buying saying, well, it had a tear, it had this, it had that, meaning pinholes, things. That's a great example. It's like that seller, and I'm not disparaging the seller, they just might not have the wherewithal or knowledge, because this is not something they deal with normally. But you do need to know that there's frayed edges. There is a tear. There is a piece missing, which may or may not be obvious. There are pinholes. There is a stain. There is writing. Those things need to be called out in the description, and it always bothers me when they're not. Because sometimes you can't tell, especially on the old large size, and especially on the grades that I buy, and especially I buy stuff that is not going to be in a holder. So, that's what I'm looking for. So don't be afraid to go back and ask those questions to know exactly what you're going to get. Because again, making the circle complete is that you can't hold it in your hand,
Right.
And again, know your grading list. I've brought it before. I had it out earlier. I've kind of made my own combination of PCGS and PMG along with Legacy. I love Legacies. I know they don't get a lot of respect, but they really do a nice job of explaining what the grades are, which is the hardest thing to understand.
One more thing is you can also, I just thought of this, you can also see on eBay how long that seller has been a member of eBay.
Mm-hmm.
That is, by itself, maybe not so much, but if they have 1,000 feedback and they've only been on there for 6 months, I mean, that's one thing, but if they've been on there for 10 years, then that's another.
Okay. So we've done our search, we've done our research on our seller, we've identified, okay, I'm comfortable with that. We're there because the note we're interested, and the price must be close, because otherwise we would probably move on, right? Maybe not. So, how am I confirming that market value? This is one thing where I want to jump in. eBay helps me do that also, by the way, without having books and things like that. At least I can get a general sense. On eBay, this note is at least valued, again, on eBay. But there's more to the story. Anybody want to pick that up? And I think I know who will. Yep.
When you say that, that it helps you with value, yes, you can look at sold results on eBay.
One piece. There's more to the story.
Yes. Don't look at the last sale. If there is one sale, that does not mean that's not what the item is worth. eBay will tell you what the last person paid for that item. If I want to pay $10,000 for a $1 silver certificate from 1957, that does not mean that your stack of 50 are worth $10,000 a piece. Just because somebody bought it for that price on eBay does not equate to value. Scroll all the way down the list. Find multiple sales. There are a lot of people that will use eBay in this way, and some of the honest people on YouTube that are showing these videos show you that top view, and then they scroll down. This one sold for $500, but if we scroll down within the last week, there was one that sold for $100, one that sold it for $85. So don't look at that top price and get focused on that. Take it as an average. It's a great resource, but like I said, one person paying a ridiculous price does not mean that everybody's is now worth that much.
Well, and this is, again, sorry, I didn't think you'd go that direction because you're the book man. So am I. I mean, yeah, you're dragging out. I've got 3 different books that will give me a general idea that each one of those helps me provide value to what I'm seeing on the sold or what's on for sale for right now, by the way, too, because obviously the older those sales get, which is the problem with books, you just got to determine the value. And is the value what you'll pay? Yep, that's part of it, but it doesn't mean it is for Dustin or any of us. Everybody's got a different value.
Right. Yeah. Well, I know we're focused more on eBay, but Ontario was telling us about notes that he saw on other platforms that would then show up on eBay afterwards. And I thought that was interesting.
Well, we saw that last time. And by the way, in our pre-conversation, we saw Ontario found another one. You got to really get something else to do, Ontario, honestly.
I know.
No, I love it. I love it. This is why we love Ontario.
I know.
It's the only reason, actually. But yeah, I mean, he found a note for like 1,500 and now it's on eBay for 2,100. This is a second note in literally 3 weeks. So it does happen for that. All right. So
Well, Dustin, with fancy serial numbers, Dustin, do you go on and check do you check prices in the sold listings with fancies, and what have you been seeing, if so?
Um, sometimes I do on larger denominations. That's my thing.
well, part of the issue, and it's not just on eBay on this, but the value is hard to determine. You've got the books, you've got what's on eBay. Go check Heritage out; they do a great job with that. But how do I determine a fancy? What's the value of a fancy? And by the way, I like sevens. I hate threes. I don't know. Is that going to mean more money for me because I like sevens? Or a star note? Is a star note valued? Is a modern star note valued more than a silver certificate from 1934? I know the difference. But the block numbers, having double X's, things like that, is that a value, and can you put a value on that? Or is it just something that kind of like it's a one-off on pretty much every single case?
It comes down to personal preference entirely. I think, is there added value to some of those? Yeah, there are to some of those, you bet. How to determine that value, still referencing eBay, it's looking through. I always set my kind of ladder at about 3 months. I look at the past 3 months and I think, all right, is it trending up or down? How is that going to determine what I'm going to pay for this note? I guess it's more trending and statistical stuff more so than it is, anything.
Well,
But right now, with the fancy market, it's pretty hot.
yeah.
And you said like sevens and threes. Well, those are both pretty cheap to collect.
But you get my point. I like threes more than sevens, so it's more of a value for me. I equate it all to what Steve taught me was it's a birthday note. My birthday is important. I'll pay you $50 for it. I wouldn't
Yep.
get 2 cents for the day after. Right?
Right.
And so that's what these is. The whole key to the whole fancy slash star, it's like, is it valuable to you, and make sure that it is a real value, right? It's a real fancy. It's a real this or that. All right. Part of the things too for me that ties into that is eye appeal of the note. You might pay more, this, that, and that's what eBay does for me. I like it that I can probably, especially with more well-known notes, right? Is that I can find 3, 4 examples or wait to find 3, 4 more. I want a brighter paper. I want the seal to pop a little bit more. I want whatever it is, that you have that option on that. And again, it doesn't mean it's going to add any more value, but it probably would be the first one sold as opposed to.
Yeah, that's a huge point. That's why eye appeal is so important. I've got notes that I scratch my head why they're graded 15 because they look so nice. And I've got notes that are beautiful that are graded 35 and I can't figure out why. But the eye appeal factor. My notes, I like my notes. I was drawn to them because of how they look. Is it worth more? No. But is it more likely to sell? Yes.
Yeah.
So just because you've got two notes, one of them has, they're both graded 20, one of them is going to look better than the other. That's just the way it is. And with eBay, you get the option to look at all of those 20s and see which one has the best eye appeal.
Anything else on that? Because we're not quite to throw it in the cart. There's one thing I want to talk about is shipping. Should shipping be involved in my pricing?
Shipping should be involved for more than just your pricing. Shipping is a key insight into your seller. What I mean by that is if the seller is offering free shipping, great. Now you know exactly what you're paying. But if the seller wants to charge you $9.99 shipping, well, I ship stuff all over the country. A bubble mailer is going to cost me $5 with tracking to ship anywhere. So why is this guy charging me $10 for the exact same thing? So now you're starting to see where the seller's coming from. I've seen ridiculous shipping prices. I've seen people that wanted to just charge $29.95 for shipping, and they're not sending it express. That's just their shipping costs because they're padding their profit is all they're doing. Now, if someone searches by price, well, they don't have to start the item at $50. They can start the item at $30 because they're charging $19.99 for shipping. So pay attention to that shipping price because that does give you the little bit of an insight into where your seller's coming from.
The only thing I would have to add is be careful of certified. I mean, I get that, hey, it's an extra service and this and that. Problem is, no offense to any USPS workers out there, I've had more problems with certified because I'm not here to sign it. I'm lucky if I get a note on the door or in the mailbox. And then I've almost lost two. I've had to go down on the last day and I'm tracking it. It doesn't show it's there. And then boom, you get the notice somewhere saying, hey, you've got something here, come get it. And I'm like, I never got notice that it was even in the neighborhood. And yet I was aware it was coming. I don't like certified. Anyways, moving on. All right. We've put it in the cart, right? We're going to go buy it. End of story. Is there anything left to talk about what we're looking at? Okay.
No. You put it in the cart. The next step is to check
yeah.
the seller's other items.
If you have a shipping charge.
Yeah. Well, even if you don't, it's you found something that this seller has that you want to buy. Well, if he's got one thing, he may have two, he may have five. And most of the time sellers are going to combine shipping. So if you're already placing an order, double check what they got because now all of a sudden you're getting stuff for minus the shipping cost. You don't have to pay that additional shipping cost. And if it's 4 or 5 items at $5 a piece, I mean, that's $25 you're saving. That's an extra note. You can buy another one.
No. All right. We're going to move on to the selling side. Again, staying with the context that we are collectors selling for whatever reason, whether it's an upgrade, I'm changing direction on my collection, I'm selling off one or many notes. What should I be doing? Who wants to take this?
I'll take it.
All right, go.
Regarding selling, you made the comment of going a different direction. When I was into coins a little bit, I would sell some coins on eBay, but right now I'm getting rid of all my notes that are not fancies. And some of them are pretty tough to get rid of, like the educational series I just got rid of and stuff. But ultimately,
can I take a pause on that?
Yeah.
Because, that conversation has been going around. And I think the reason that it didn't sell as quick, Dustin, your pricing was, I thought, extremely fair, especially for the notes. I had no problem, but the problem is I already have the 1 and the 2. I made the mistake of not buying the 5 first. So I didn't need all 3. It's kind of like when you see people, sequential, serial numbers. I don't want 2 of them. I don't know what to do with the second one. So
Sure.
I think that was the issue for someone to jump in and buy all 3, even though they were great notes for a great price.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I don't want.
Right.
Yeah, that's.
Well, eBay came into play on that. They were never listed on eBay, but the prior $5 educational sold for I think $1,700 or $17.99. And so instead of scrolling down to see the 1900, the 2100, the other sold items, they just keyed in on that lowest number and that factored into offers that I received.
Okay.
Which I get cool, but at the same time, use that thumb or use your index finger and scroll down a little bit and understand that that's the outlier in the whole series of numbers,
Going back to what Steve said earlier, it's just one angle out of 50 of part of that price or value.
And sometimes people just get lucky. They
do. They do. Well, going back to selling, anytime I would upgrade a coin or a note, it's like, well, what do I do with the old one? And if it's graded, I feel like it's much easier to sell, especially coins on eBay. But with currency, I would just throw it up on my eBay page and see what happened, I would put my number in that I had in it. That was always kind of where I was at. And that's where I would start my bidding at. So every bid I got from there, whether it be 2 bids or 25, was profit for me.
All right. So Dustin, I got a question. So with that educational series, why didn't you piecemeal it off? Why did you want to sell it as a set?
Because it took me so dang long to get all the notes. By all means, I'm selling them together.
All right.
It's in anyone that's ever completed a set like that. I'm sure you guys have sets you're working on or have completed. You know what I'm talking about. It's like, man, I put 5 years into this and I'm selling them all together, even if it takes, a year to sell them or whatever. That's just kind of the mindset I was in. Everyone needs that $5 educational. That's the cornerstone note for a lot of collections, even if it's a 12 or a 15. They're expensive. I hate to call them rare. They're not rare. You can get on eBay right now and probably find 50 of them, but I don't know.
They're valuable.
They're valuable. They're valuable. They're
note.
Beautiful notes,
As long as you're trying to get what you need, and that kind of crosses back. I'm going to go to, Steve, back to you. I mean, you probably had the most experience out of all 4 of us of selling on eBay. So, okay, I know what I want to sell. Now what?
Well, you have to decide what you want to get out of the note, I guess is the best way to put it. If you're looking to turn it over for instant cash, then what you should be doing is put it up for auction and start it at $1. Okay.
Yep.
A lot of people are afraid to do that. Well, if you have a note that's worth $250 and you started at $1, it's not going to sell for $5. Okay. There are going to be people out there who are going to sniff that out. And yeah, are you going to get $250 for it? Probably not. But I bet you get 175. I bet you get, close to 200 on that note if that's what it's really worth. So if you are looking to turn it over, right away, you put it up for auction. If there isn't a hurry, well, yeah, then put it up there as a buy it now. Put it up there for that 250, or you can put it for 275 or best offer to get people to look, and you always want people to be going back and forth with you as when you're trying to sell stuff like that. But yeah, those, that's the key thing. Everybody loves to say how much their item is worth. Okay, well, put your money where your mouth is. Put it up for auction for $1, and if you're going to tell everybody it's worth $250 and it doesn't sell for $250, then it's probably not worth $250. That's the safest way to go. Now, there are people out there who are going to charge you for eBay selling tips, and they're going to say stuff like, use these keywords, you do this, do that, the other. We're not going to charge you for this information. If you want to sell something, eBay allows, I believe, 80 characters in the title. And when you put it out there, that's how people search. They search for keywords. So use every single one of them spaces that you can in your title. Put the year, put a $ as well as the number, spell out the word dollar, use every possible, gold certificate, FRN, as well as Federal Reserve note. People are going to type in all of these things. And if you've got 80 characters available to you, use them. And I'm not going to charge you guys for that information.
Well, there is a price. We had to listen to it. So, okay.
I wonder if I have a silver necklace I can put on.
Words talk about, the description's important. Use what you're given for free, basically. Obviously, it's not free, but it kind of is. You got 80 characters, use it. I'm going to jump in with the next step is good picks. I mean, we talked about it as buyers. You want that. Well, be the seller. It's not that hard. It just isn't. If you've got a smartphone, it's probably got a great camera on it. Get the lighting right. Take it out of the sleeve to take the picture. Now you don't have to worry about reflections and all that kind of stuff. Plus, it's going to photograph better. Give me the fronts and backs, zoom in on certain areas, even if they're troubled areas. I think there's I have a trust value when people do the segmented larger areas that I'm like, okay, thank you for highlighting that.
Now, on that line, with currency specifically, okay, I take incredibly horrible, I shouldn't say horrible, I take extremely unflattering pictures of any notes that I sell on eBay. I will take my note and I will put it in direct sunlight, because when you photograph a note in direct sunlight, every single little crease or handling mark or tear, all of that stuff shows up and it makes your note look terrible. And you may think, why am I trying to make my note look bad? It's not that I'm trying to make it look bad. I'm trying to be honest in my sales. I would much rather have someone buy my note, open up the package, and go, wow, this looks incredible, compared to what they thought they were getting. So I take honest pictures by using direct sunlight. And that's my tip. Use direct sunlight, because that way you're not hiding anything from anyone.
Yeah, any type of light for me. It's just get the note lit up so you can see it, right? So you can see the good and the bad. That is important, extremely important. Anything else?
AI.
AI. This is one of Stu's favorites new thing to talk about. That. Oh, okay. You guys talk about AI. I'm going to bring Ontario's guy back up. All right, I'm going to share this before, just so I can really get Steve going. This one right here. By the way, this is something to talk about, buying, right? If it's not a certain grader, there you got to cover it up. That's for coins and for currency. Yep. And Ontario, thank you for providing this information, because you can see where it's covered up. So
my understanding is that if it's not PCGS or PMG for currency, you have to cover the grade. If that's not correct, let us know, but that was my understanding.
Well, I looked at, there is one third one out there. I think Legacy is good. Legacy is okay. Here's what I think Steve writes this for people and then lets people have it.
My side job.
This legal tender is a must-have for paper money collectors. With its historic value and unique features, it's sure to be a great addition to any collection. This banknote has been circulated, giving it character and a story to tell. Well, I can tell you what that story is.
Yeah. If they want to give character to the note, read that as damage. Anytime you see the word character, just take that as damage, and now see how much you want that note. Well, I hate AI.
That's where I'm like, I don't care about all the fluff and the superfluous language. Again, for me, if I'm selling, I am calling out the pinholes. If it does have pinholes, I'm holding it up so you can see the pinholes. Those are the things that I think will get your note sold for what it's worth. If you're trying to scam people, that we're not trying to help you right now. We're trying to get you your note sold for the value that it is. And that's
the note that you just put up there. Does it have any pinholes? No idea. Does it have any tears? Don't know. Do I care about the historic value and character that the note will add to my collection? No, I don't care about that. I need to know the important thing. So if you are selling your notes, that's what people want to know. In your description, let them know, hey, it's got a crease. It might have a slight tear here. It's got a pinhole over here. It's got a rust spot over here. That's what actual buyers want to know. They don't want to hear the historic nuances of the features no, they don't care about that. They want to know the specifics.
Right.
Description and pictures. And your initial character line, description line. It's all part of it. It's all three of those things, and it's not rocket science to do. It really is not. It is
exactly.
And it's just do the right thing. That's what it is. We're all mainly buyers. We're collectors. We get sick of this stuff, a lot of it, and that's where the negative, because you see so much of it on eBay and you wade through it, and it's still a very low percentage, but it's hard. Nobody likes digging through garbage to get to the rainbow.
Yeah, it's the stuff that you remember. You go through and you'll see 100 items and you'll see one of them that's nasty like that, and that's what you remember. And that's the sad part. Look at me. I make all these videos about eBay scammers, yet the bulk of my collection comes from eBay. So,
yeah.
Educate yourself. I say it every video.
I'm gonna play the music again. I am totally gonna.
But That's the thing. That's the one that's so important, because you're going to feel like an idiot if you let a note go for, $200 less than it should have been, or if you get scammed or whatever. That's on you. It's not on anyone else.
All right, so we're going to end this up, but I've got to start, since we are talking about eBay. I'm kind of going to rip a page out of Stu's video catalog a little bit, because some things I just like, man. And I'm going to call this the wall of shame. So
Yeah.
I believe, Mr. Ontario, you sent this one out, and I just had to grab it and go. So, if we have a wall of shame, this is what we're going to do. Just head shakers. A one-sided radar.
Oh, this is Dustin's category.
Oh,
Okay.
was this Dustin's? I'm sorry.
Dustin.
But no.
That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
I mean, here's the deal. Here's what really bothers me is that you got, a 57A silver certificate, 64 PPQ. It's in a legacy holder. There you go. Legacy is okay.
Yeah.
The note stands on its own. Cut that crap out. It's not real. It's just confusing people. Man, a one-side radar.
Okay, now let's be honest here, though. This particular note in that condition, meaning a 1957A $1 silver certificate. Okay, I don't care what the serial number is.
Right.
This note is probably priced accordingly for that grade.
Yeah.
But it is most certainly not a fancy serial number.
Right. And that was my thank you for finishing up my thoughts, Steve, because that's why I'm like, this note stands on its own. And whether you think legacy is as good as any other, whatever, it's an approved, grader from eBay. Fine. Leave it at that. But yes, that is let it stand on its own, folks. Enough of this silly stuff that is not helping the collecting of currency. Our job, and I think we'd all agree with this, we want to expand our community. That's why we do this. That's why we have our YouTube channels. That's why we're doing this show of the Currency Roundtable. That's all. I'll get off my soapbox for right now. All right. Anybody else? And by the way, if you guys find them, give them to me. We'll bring them up each time for a nice hall of shame.
No problem there.
I've got one more. I guess it's kind of eBay related, but always look carefully when you receive your items. Sometimes they will contain, these cards.
Oh, good point. Great.
Business cards. And another thing that is connections. Make connections with sellers.
Great point to bring up. Awesome. We almost forgot about talking about that.
Oh, the other one we almost forgot about was when it comes to shipping and packaging.
Oh, packaging.
Yeah. You want to secure your item, but if you package it in such a way that the only way to remove it from the packaging is to damage the item, then you've missed the boat.
I appreciate the double wrap, bubble wrap, and the tape, but I'm like, man, it's like I'm afraid I'm going to destroy the note getting it out of it. All right, that is it for our eBay episode. I probably realize not everybody got what they wanted. They're hoping for the secret snipe tools and things like that, but that's up for you to learn, and everybody has to learn that on their own, to be honest, because we're all out there on eBay trying to save a buck. So there.
Does anybody want to give up any secrets?
Yeah, any tips?
Yeah.
I will share a small one.
Oh boy.
What I used to do before I would watch notes is I would place a bid on an item. Just whatever. If the high bid was $10, I'd bid $11. And that way I would get notified immediately when I got outbid. And of course, as the countdown, I would get all kinds of reminders that way. I don't do that anymore. Now I refuse to bid on an item if there is more than 10 seconds left. Because what I didn't realize that I was doing is I was increasing the amount that I'd bid. I mean, think about it. If I put in just a minuscule bid, with 5 days to go, and 10 other people did the same thing, well, now all 10 of us have just jumped the price on that one particular item. So
Right.
I no longer bid on an item until it's time to go. The next portion of that bid is that I don't try to beat somebody by a dollar. If the high bid is $55 and I know the item's worth 100, I'm not going to bid 56. I'm going to put in what I'm willing to pay. And the final little snag that I'm going to give with this is I do not bet in whole numbers. Okay.
Yep.
You're never going to see me
Right.
bidding $95. I'm going to
Right.
bid $95.12 because somebody else is going to bid $95. And that means I
Right.
just got it for 12 cents more.
Well, that's the last two especially. But the second one that you brought up, I mean, for me, that is, I mean, why aren't you doing that? Because that's when you get sniped.
Yes.
When you fall asleep at the wheel for that damn buck, and it's all happened to us.
Yes.
Yep.
So, I mean, and again, I'm going to put in what I think the value is, and I've determined that, and what I can afford to pay for it. And if you don't get it, what you don't have, what have you lost? You didn't
My-
pay for something that, you know, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
my favorite part is that as I'm watching the countdown on that countdown page on my phone, when I'm going to type in the bid, eBay has 3 presets for a bid. So, I mean, if the high bid is 75, it says, you can bid 77, 79, or 81, or you can type in your manual bid. Well, I always make sure I'm typing in a bid that's above those presets because obviously anybody else watching is probably going to tap one of those presets, and I already have
Right.
them. I already have them
Yeah,
done that way.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, Stu. And that's it. Gentlemen, as always, I always just enjoy this time. To me, it's just sitting around and talking. We are out.